Hello and welcome. My name's Mark Wallace and I'm your host for today's webinar on Voyager, so thanks very much for joining us. I'm joined by my co-presenter, Darko Radachevsky. And just to get us going, I just want to run through a bit of an agenda for today's webinar. I want to have a bit of a short discussion today about today's theme, search and discovery, and the problems that are associated with it. And then we'll switch across to Darko for some demonstration of a couple of different use scenarios. And then we'll go into some question and answers and some closing remarks to wrap up. Now with the questions today, because we're using the GoToWebinar format, there's a little bit down on the bottom right there where there's some questions. So if you feel like you've got a question throughout the presentation, it'd be great if you could type those in there. And then when we come back, we get to the question and answer section. We'll so can we see the screen? Sorry, I think we've got the screen now. Sorry about that. And when we get to the question and answers, I'll read out the questions for everybody to answer. All right. So as we all know, the information lifecycle is a dynamic series of overlapping activities. And these activities can be broadly defined as being search and discover, access, use, and analyse. And it's AAM's range of technology products and services that are the building blocks for our geospatial solutions that help clients with these particular activities. And today's theme for our webinar is search and discover, where we'll explore how Voyager can assist in this part of the information lifecycle. We'll also briefly look at how Voyager relates to our other technologies that make up the full suite of the AAM geospatial solutions, and in particular, Geocortex. As we all know, information systems are only as good as the data that it holds, but managing that data is so often a challenge. You know, whether we be a single user or a multinational organisation, it's all too common to have many versions of the same data floating around. I've got some questions here to pose to you and see if any of these resonate with you. Do your users have trouble finding data? Do you have multiple copies of data? What about storing data and you're not sure which one's the authoritative copy and that's why you store it because you're not sure? Do you have content hidden away on some offline server? Or do you often wonder whether your metadata is actually so poor that it doesn't accurately reflect your existing content? You know, if you've got lots of information on data, finding that right data and understanding or making sense of it to make a good decision can be incredibly frustrating, time-consuming, and even worse, very costly. And this all boils down to, you know, an information overload type problem. And this is what Voyager is designed and has been developed to address, is this information overload problem. Voyager does this by being able to open just about any file, inspect its properties, and create a rich content inventory by indexing and cataloging. Voyager's ability to show you the relationships between data, layer, and documents allows you to build a single point of truth regardless of where that data is actually stored. It allows you to search by spatial extent or keyword search. It also helps you identify duplicate data and broken links. It's fast, and this is my personal favourite. Metadata is not required, although if you do have metadata, it'll leverage it when it's trying to index. And for our Geocortex users out there, you can take advantage of Voyager's capabilities via your Geocortex websites. Organisations the world over, whether large or small, have used Voyager to help them find and manage their own data. And as we mentioned in the agenda, I'm now going to pass across to Darko Radachevsky to run us through some user scenarios. He's going to be looking at 3 scenarios today. The first will be a scenario where it's a typical project-oriented company. Will be followed up by a self-service portal, and that could be internally or an externally facing one. And lastly, the scenario that he'll be looking at is any company really that's wanting to improve its data management processes and its underpinning information infrastructure. So with that, I'll just pass across to Darko. All right, thanks, Darko.
Thanks, Mark. Can I just confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. And I'll just share my screen at the moment. So thanks for that, Mark. So that was a great sort of introduction to the concept of the information lifecycle and how Voyager fits within the information lifecycle. So what are we, as Mark mentioned, we're going to try and show the practically, I guess, how Voyager is really useful in the information lifecycle through 3 use cases. The first one was the typical project or in the company. So as we said, one of the first 2 points were searching and discovery. So people needing to find data so they can use it as part of their project. So what I've got here is I've got my Voyager instance open. This is my Voyager search window. And what I would like to do here is pretty much within Voyager, I would like to go search for some data. So I know that my data or my project is on the west coast of Australia. So what it does quickly, as you can see, Voyager has gone through and searched this index and found some information, found some pipeline data and found some information which are coming from different data sources. Some are coming from file shares, some are coming from REST services from ArcGIS server, some are coming even from, if I find a couple of here, even coming from SDE, so indexing some data within SDE, as you can see there. So what I can do from here is I can say, well, I really want this roads data set. That's the one I really wanted to use. I can further here narrow my search, and you can see now, out of all the data that it had, now it's filtered to a handful. I can go and click on my roads data set and say, show my details. From here, I can now identify that this roads data set is actually a map service, which is part of an ArcGIS server service, and it's part of this layer on this map service. This is a roads layer, part of a map service called Magellanic Vector. So I can go through, click on this map service, and from here, I can now say, well, open this up in ArcMap, ArcGIS Explorer, ArcGIS JavaScript, or even ArcGIS Online. And just a small note here for the Geocortex users, what's coming up quite soon within the next month will be an option here to say open up with Geocortex. So if let's say I'd like to open up an ArcGIS JavaScript, then we'll just simply go through and open up this map service, and find it for me. So from here, I can go and do a couple of different operations on this particular data set. So you can see how we've gone through and identified a particular data set. Well, that's one scenario, people within Voyager wanting to find some data. What happens for people who are actually now, who do have a spatial application, and here I'll focus more on the Geocortex use case. So what I do have here is I have a Geocortex viewer for Silverlight, and it's a web application which contains a couple of layers. In this particular case, I've got some Sydney data, some transport information here, which is the railroads and the stations. Well, I'd like to add some data, so I really want to have a look at the road data set. Not really I'm not interested about the railroad, but the real roads. So what I can do here, from within my spatial application, I can go through, click on my data source tab within Geocortex Viewer, and I can say, well, I'd like to add some data. So I know I'm searching for roads. And the type roads, what's going to happen here is that the Geocortex Viewer for Silverlight, as you can see, fires up a search and does a search across to, I guess, ArcGIS Online, because that's what I configured, but also goes through and does a Voyager search. So as you can see here in the Voyager section, it's gone through and used this keyword, roads, and it's gone to find all these different data sets here, which are part of my Voyager index data set. And even more, also, I have configured my Voyager to go through and search for some road information, for some shapefiles. And then because Voyager here has indexed some shapefiles, I can go through and add these road shapefiles within my Geocortex instance. So quite quickly, I might want to add my parameter road. I can just go and follow my bouncing ball, and from here I can say, well, I want to use the parameter roads dynamic map service and go through, finish, and that's added into my layer list. So as I can zoom in now here, you can see, well, that's added as part of my web map. So quite quickly, I want to show how we can have the 2 scenarios. Somebody within our Voyager interface trying to find some data to use it on the project, and somebody within the spatial interface wanting to find some data and on the fly add it and make it available. So that was the first first use case. What I really want to show you one slide here before I jump on the next use case is show you this slide. As you can see here, this particular slide demonstrates that we've got some data, but how does this data get into our solution? So Voyager, being an indexing solution, goes through and discovers data sets, and those discovered data sets have been indexed and are made available within the Voyager application. So what Voyager does, essentially, it searches its own index and doesn't touch the data which is part of our spatial data infrastructure, and then the data just becomes accessible. So that was the first use case. Somebody wanted to find data and make use of it. The second use case was more around the self-service portal. So what I wanted to show here is essentially something that's part of what's worked on at the moment. So this is, as you can see here, is more of a shopping cart approach. So people wanting to find some data and be able and use it and download it right away to make it available for them. The way this can be done with this Voyager development here, the same spatial index that we had available in the previous scenario, now it's also available. However, I can say here, well, I'd like to go ahead and do some searching of data which is in this area of interest, and that's a spatial filter there. I'd like to go into formal category and say, well, I just want GIS data sets. And also maybe I'd like to say, add the 3D keyword in there as well. So as you can see, it's using a combination of multiple data sets together, and I can go and say, well, I'd like to have this elevation data set, and this my shaded relief, and maybe add me this map series. From here, you can see that's been part of my shopping cart. So now, if I go to my shopping cart, what I can do is a couple of things. Obviously, it tells me if I want to click this data, I can further click it. So maybe I'd say I'd like to only get from the world elevation and test map data set, I only want the area in WA. And then I'd like to go and change my projection. So I can specify the output projection and also the file format it comes across. Once I do that, I can go through and click download, and that's going to follow through and run the process of clipping, and will give me a data set back. Obviously, this is done through respecting the security of the data set, and also being able to have a logged in user and have some security around who can do what areas can be extra, and things like that. So just very quickly how somebody can go through. So I can now go back and I can do further more searches. And I can go through and say, search only for services and of GIS format, and then it is an actual object server feature service. And I can also do the same thing, search for roads. So they will go through and find me all of the road map services, or feature services, that I can go further on from there, explore, and then get and make them available within our application. So that was quite quickly the second use case, being able to have a self-service portal. The third use case we wanted to show today was the concept of, I guess, try to demonstrate the concept of data management. So what's really important here is that people, as I showed in the previous diagram, so on this diagram here, we have people being able to discover and index the data, but once this data is indexed, we'd like to manage our infrastructure and make sure we have the most of it. For what I mean by that is things like remove duplicate data sets, and also expose tools that allow us to go do things like clipping, zipping, and so forth. To do that, I'm going to jump to my Voyager instance. And what I can do here is, first of all, I wanted to demonstrate that how can I go and do a search on some data. So if I go maybe say search for some voting data, Voyager will go through and find some data sets which are with a voting term into them. And I can also maybe say, well, only give me data sets in this area. From here, I can go with 2 things. First of all, I will save this search. And I can also maybe say, well, only give me data sets in this area. From here, I can go with 2 things. First of all, I will save this search. and this will be my voting data. Once I have my saved search, Voyager provides quite a few tools on the concept of the geoprocessing realm. So what we can do now is we can actually do some further processing on this data. I'd like to do some server processing. And what Voyager will do is the 87 results, which are part of my search, will actually allow me to add into a file database, do a click and ship, convert to XML. So maybe I'll just say convert to XML. So from here, I can go through and furthermore define the clip area. So I really like only this segment here. And I can go and execute. So that's going to go through and clip this data set and try and convert to KML and give me back the results. So quite quickly, I just try to do again, self-service concept back coming to myself, trying to help me to actually get the data I need quite quickly. So I just started talking about managing your infrastructure. So let me jump back to my other Voyager instance. So what I'd like to show here is that a couple of the tools that Voyager provides for us to be able to find duplicate data. We know that duplicate data is something that's quite common. We have too much wasted space across within the organization just storing duplicate data sets. So what I'll do now is I'll just go to my Voyager instance and go to my saved searches. And here I've got my saved search, which is pre-configured for us, that searches for duplicate data. And the way Voyager searches for duplicate data on some of the common formats like shapefiles, CCWs, and so forth, it actually creates an MD5 hash of the content of the file. And then the content, those MD5 hashes are compared between all of the data. So what I'll do here is I'll go through and change my search to only search for ECWs. And you can see here gave me all the MD5 hashes actually match. If I click on the first one, you can see how here I've got it given me already identified 2 image data sets which are in different locations. So, and it's exactly the same data. And I can go through and do some things here. So what I can do from here, I can say, I can save this search, or I can actually click on here and you can say add to list and duplicate to delete. Or I can create a list and say, please delete this data. So I can keep adding things to my duplicate list, and then once I'm ready, I can go in my tools and then process the results using the actual Voyager server processing tools and delete the data. Or other things from here, we can actually go back. It's not only searching for duplicates. I can go to my Voyager saved searches, and I can say, find me the largest file sizes. So I can have a look, how is actually my storage used? So I've got all these different data sets which are using 129 gig, 90 gigabytes, and so forth. I'd like you to understand where is this data and what are my users doing with the storage that we provisioned. So that's pretty much just quite quickly what I wanted to show as far as the 3 use cases. So we started, just to recap, we started with the simple search within Voyager and then extended across to Geocortex to allow you to find the data quicker and make use of it. The second use case was the concept of the self-service portal. And the last one was just being able to go and understand our infrastructure, find duplicate data sets, find large data sets, and also be able to go and do things like find missing links, and so forth. So what I'm going to do now is I might hand over back to Mark. Thank you. Over to you, Mark.
Thanks, Darko. In summary, I'd just like to highlight a few points about the benefits of Voyager Search that can bring to an organisation. Firstly, it can bring improved productivity and decision making. It helps reduce wasted time, looking for data that's difficult to find, hidden away on servers. Being able to make good decisions because you've got the right data at the right time. There's nothing worse than making a bad decision because you had some old data and then you're trying to recover from that bad decision. Secondly, better data management practices. As Darko explained, the identification of duplicate data can really help an organisation or as a data manager reduce and minimise the amount of duplicate data you've got. And that helps build that single point of truth regardless of wherever the data is stored. And lastly, cost savings. It helps reduce rework. You found yourself in a scenario where you know there's a piece of information or data somewhere but you can't find it, and you end up, because it's so hard to find, you end up trying to recreate that data from scratch. It also helps too, with the identification of duplicate data and minimising the amount of storage and infrastructure required to manage that duplicate data. So you've heard enough from Darko and I for the moment. So we'd like to see what questions we've got. Okay, Darko, we've got one here. Just wanting to know, how long does it take to get up and running with Voyager?
The concept is quite simple, I guess. Voyager itself, it comes with a self-instructing package, which once it's installed can be configured. And once Voyager is configured, if I just maybe jump to and show my screen, so within Voyager we have our management console. So what we can do is once Voyager is installed, we only need to do is go to our discovery section, to the location, and then configure the locations we want to search. And that's pretty much it. So literally after installation, and configuration of the path, scanning the index, obviously the length of the scanning depends on how big is the data we're trying to scan. But to get running with Voyager, it takes within hours.
All right, thanks, Darko. We've got another question here. What kind of data can be searched for through the internet or internal, say, intranet of an organisation? So I think that's us. Yeah. So what kind of data can be searched for?
Yeah. So quite simple answer for that is on this screen here. We can see Voyager on the format section. It describes all of the different formats, which are quite a few of them, 663, which can be searched across. And there is a list of files which live on a file system and also files which are web accessible data. So go to my previous screen just to quickly show here. We can search for directories. We can search databases, so we can here connect to either multiple like the SQL, Oracle, as long as we have the client available, the SQL and Oracle client, or Postgres, for example. We can go and connect to web services, so WMS, WFS, ArcGIS Server, ArcGIS Online. We can also discover Geocortex. And as part of version 1.9 as well, what we have available here is also the concept to not only connect to a service and have a look at the extent of a service or a file, but we can also go and connect to databases and get attribute information as well. So I can go and connect to a feature service or an actual data and get attribute information coming back.
Okay, just adding on to that one, we've got a similar question from somebody else. Can Voyager search a document management system such as Documentum and then retrieve the documents?
There is a couple of cases where Voyager has been configured to integrate with document management systems. As far as Documentum in particular, I'm not 100% sure of that, so we can take that one offline and get back to the person who asked the question. So absolutely. So we've got a list of questions here, so we'll get back to you. But definitely it's possible to integrate to a document system. And also one of the big things for Voyager, which is coming through with this release, is the concept of non-spatial document searching and the gazetteer or geotagging. So for a document which doesn't have a content, a spatial location, the document can be opened canned, find data of elements, and we can go and cross-reference them to a gazetteer. That can be a public gazetteer or can be an actual company and gazetteer. So things like a document might contain a well name or a permit, and then that can be referenced against a company-wide gazetteer, which can reference the well name to a location of the well, and then place a spatial content of the document.
All right. Thanks, Darko. We've got quite a lineup of questions here. So does AAM provide Voyager training for users?
Correct. So we provide both the training for the administrators and the users. So it comes, the trainers come from our team, and yeah, definitely we address both of them, both technical or administrative training, setup and support, and also user training.
Yep. Got a question here. When is the MD5 hash index built? Is it at the same time as the data discovery, or is it at a separate indexing process?
Yep. Now, for the MD5, what happens is when Voyager starts the scanning process, so if I was to click scan here on this particular AM object service, or I can go and search this folder, at the process of scanning, every file is opened up, and then the MD5, the index is created, and the MD5 is built. And then if we actually have a watch process, that means that every time we detect a change, if a file has been maybe modified, then obviously the watch process will be able to pick it up and rebuild the MD5 hash if needed. But correct, it's not a separate process, it's part of the search and index process.
Yep. Can it search PDF or exported map images?
So if I understand it correctly, yes, yeah, as I said before, we can definitely search non-spatial documents like PDFs. And there's a couple of things, just talking to the guys from Voyager as well. There is some work planned. It's nothing really concrete on embedding OCR within Voyager as well, but that's optical character recognition as well, so being able to get the content from images if possible. But yeah, as far as the PDF concept, there is, you can then spatially relate, find documents, and then get them through Voyager.
Yep. Got one here about, will Voyager pick up the metadata of your GIS data?
What metadata of the GIS data?
So I think that one's asking, if you've got metadata available, it'll leverage that to build its index. So while it doesn't need metadata, it certainly takes advantage of it. Correct.
So I'm just going, if the person that asked the question, we can have a look at my screen here. We can go through and configure our metadata extractors. So essentially, it's built on XPath queries. So we can go and configure what fields from the metadata we want to be extracted, and we support a variety of metadata formats. Essentially, what happens is the metadata is scanned, it's picked up, it's normalized, and then placed as part of the index.
Yep. We might do one more. There's still quite a number here, so we might do one more, Darko, and then we'll follow up with all the questions afterwards, if that's all right. Sorry?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's one more there, like for ArcMap add-in as well. So
yep.
For the ArcMap users, we showed Geocortex, that how people can use, obviously, Geocortex to add the data. But if you are an ArcMap add-in, there is an actual add-in that runs within ArcMap, and that allows you to open up Voyager and do searching for Voyager within ArcMap. And there is a quite simple configuration. So within the Voyager management interface, there's this extension, there's an ArcMap add-in extension, and there's some configuration here that needs to be placed inside ArcMap to be able to configure the Voyager data. That's about it.
Alrighty. Well, if you could just pass back to my screen, Darko, that'd be great.
Yep. So I'll just pass it back to you.
All right, excellent. So that wraps up our question and and like I mentioned, we'll get back to any of those questions that we didn't answer in there. We actually had quite a long list. But if you do want to know some more about Voyager, please contact your account manager or email us at info@aamgroup.com. We also have, for a limited time, a special package offer on any of those who are interested in Voyager and Geocortex. So thanks again very much for everybody attending, and have a good day. Thank you.